What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome back to my channel. I'm back with yet another schedule preview and record prediction. Today we're going to be going through the 2020 Auburn Tigers. Auburn was again a fairly decent team last year. We'll look at their record here in a minute. Of course, beating Oregon in the first game of the season. Oregon controlled most of that game, and then Auburn came back and won that game against Oregon. Then, of course, ruined Alabama's hopes at a playoff spot by beating them in the Iron Bowl. Both those games were fantastic to watch. Auburn is going to be a really fun team to watch this year as well. They're returning a lot of young talent, such as Bo Nix. Or their quarterback. I know Jatarvius Whitlow is in the transfer portal. That's their running back, but he has not gone anywhere yet, so he is still an Auburn Tiger. And then, of course, returning young wide receiver Seth Williams. Yes, you're losing Derek Brown on the defensive side, but Auburn's defense is still really, really good. So let's see if Auburn is going to be able to get back on top of the SEC after so many years, or if Auburn is just going to be yet another average team. All right, so here's the schedule for the Auburn Tigers. Before we look at that, as I mentioned before, their record in 2019 was 9-4. Went 9-3 in the regular season. Of course, did not make the SEC championship game. And then what gave them the fourth loss was a loss to Minnesota in the Outback Bowl. Up there at the top, their home games are going to be in that dark blue. Their away games are going to be in orange. And they have a neutral site game, and as always, it's going to be in black. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's look at their schedule. First game of the season, they get to play Alcorn State. This one is not going to be close. Of course, Alcorn State, an FCS team. Auburn, one of the better FBS teams. This one's not going to be close. I like Auburn. Then their neutral site game. It's going to be against North Carolina. So as I talked about in my North Carolina video, I am really high on both these teams. To me, both of these teams are going to be so much fun to watch next year. Both these teams could really give the higher-ups in their conference a good run for their money. And this game is going to be a very fun one to watch. Now, I'm leaning towards the Tigers in this one because, yes, Sam Howell in the offensive line for North Carolina is coming back, and yes, North Carolina has weapons as well as Auburn. But to me, Auburn has more weapons than North Carolina does. Bo Nix and Gus Malzahn have just surrounded themselves with much more talent than what Mac Brown and Sam Howell have over there at North Carolina. And Auburn also has the better defense. Yes, losing Derek Brown is going to be a big blow, but Auburn overall has the better, more experienced defense. They have faced tougher opponents than what the North Carolina defense has had to deal with. So I like the Tigers in this one. Again, I'm not going to be surprised if North Carolina ends up winning this one. It's definitely going to be a close one-possession game. I can't wait to watch this one. Then they get their first true road game of the season. It's going to be against Ole Miss. Now, as I've talked about so many times before, Ole Miss is going to be coached by Lane Kiffin, the old Alabama coordinator and former FAU head coach. Ole Miss should be an interesting team to watch next year, returning their quarterback. Lots of talent surrounding him as well. So Ole Miss should be a fun team to watch. But I'm going to have to give this one to the Tigers. Again, just much more experience. Auburn's got better, younger talent, in my opinion. So I'm going to give the Tigers the win here in this one as well. Then they get another home game. They get to play Southern Miss. This one, just like the Alcorn State game, is not going to be close either. I'm going to give Auburn the easy win there against the Golden Eagles. Then they have a home game against Kentucky. So as I've talked about in other SEC videos, Kentucky is a very sneaky team to me. Kentucky has a lot of good talent. They're a pretty average team in my opinion, but Kentucky is a team that no one should take lightly. They definitely have the potential to surprise a lot of people. So Auburn should not take this game lightly. Auburn needs to act like Kentucky is in Alabama or a Georgia. Auburn needs to take Kentucky seriously. And saying all of this, Auburn gets them at Jordan-Hare Stadium. I don't see Auburn having too big of a problem with Kentucky. Again, just too much talent, way more talent than what Kentucky has. I like Auburn in this game as well. Then in week 6, they have a really tough game. It's a road game against the Georgia Bulldogs. So Georgia, to me, is the second best team in the SEC, behind, of course, Alabama. Georgia, this game is going to come down to defense. Georgia's defense is super good, as they have been for many years. Auburn's defense is going to be good again. Yes, you're losing Derek Brown, as I've mentioned before, but still a lot of playmakers on that defense. And then Georgia's bringing in a new quarterback in Jamie Newman. They're bringing him in from Wake Forest. Lots of weapons surrounding Jamie Newman, as well as weapons surrounding Bo Nix. So this game should be a pretty interesting game to watch. I'm going to lean towards the Bulldogs in this one because Georgia's defense is going to be a little bit better than Auburn's defense, as Georgia's defense is usually the top in the SEC. And then by this point, I feel like Georgia's going to have their offense with Jamie Newman figured out. They're going to get things moving. They're going to have a couple tricks up their sleeves, and they're going to be ready to play Auburn. So I like the Bulldogs here in this one. Then they get a home game against Texas A&M. So Texas A&M is yet another sneaky team. I know a lot of people are expecting them to be really good. Of course, you're returning Kellen Mond. Lots of weapons surrounding him as well. Lots of weapons on defense for the Aggies also. But again, to me, Auburn has way more talent than Texas A&M. Yes, they could be a sneaky team, but Auburn gets them at home. They shouldn't have much of a problem with Texas A&M. I think the Tigers will win this one. Then they get their bye week. This is a pretty good spot for a bye week. I think you'd like to have it a week earlier after the road game against Georgia, and then maybe to prepare a little bit more for Texas A&M. But overall, this is a fairly good spot for a bye week before a road game, which is always nice. And that road game is going to be on Halloween against Mississippi State. So Mississippi State, another SEC team that's getting a new head coach. They're bringing in Mike Leach from Washington State, one of the greatest personalities in all of college football. They're also getting KJ Costello, the transfer from Stanford. He's going to play quarterback for them. And Mississippi State, just like Ole Miss, is another interesting team. And Auburn has to play them on the road just like Ole Miss. It should be a fairly competitive one to watch for a little bit, but Auburn, to me, is just going to run away with this one as well. I like the Tigers. Then they get a home game against Arkansas. Of course, Arkansas getting transfer quarterback from Florida, Felipe Franks. He's going to be their quarterback, and I think is going to be able to have Arkansas up to a new level. It's not going to be the Arkansas that we're used to seeing from about a decade ago. Arkansas is a very sneaky team in the SEC. Felipe Franks, of course, as I just mentioned, there at quarterback. Not a lot of great talent surrounding Felipe Franks, and I don't think it's enough talent in order for them to beat Auburn. I think the Tigers are also going to have no problem with the Razorbacks. Then they get a game against UMass. Just like Alcorn State and Southern Miss, Auburn is going to have no problem with the Minutemen. UMass, not a very good team, one of the worst in FBS last year, and I don't think much is going to change for the Minutemen this season. Tigers will win this one. Then their final two games of the season are brutal. They get LSU, but they get them at home. I believe that this game is going to be close. This game is going to be very, very, very close. It's going to be another fun game to watch. I favored the LSU Tigers when I did the LSU schedule preview video. I favored the LSU Tigers because, to me, they just have a lot more talent than what Auburn has. Yes, Auburn has great talent as well, but two key names are going to come up in this game, and that's Jamar Chase, wide receiver for LSU, and Derek Stingley, cornerback for LSU. Jamar Chase is going to be the best offensive player in this game, and Derek Stingley is going to be the best defensive player in this game. And those two names alone push me towards LSU. Yes, I know the game is at Jordan-Hare, but to me, LSU should have not a big deal with Auburn. So I'm going to give this one to the Tigers of Louisiana State. Then they have a road game against Alabama. It's the Iron Bowl, last game of the season. The Iron Bowl has been very competitive in the past couple years. Of course, Auburn winning last year. Everybody remembers the kick six. Alabama and Auburn have gone back and forth in recent history. It's been a very good game to watch almost every single year. This year, I'm going to lean towards the Crimson Tide. Yes, I do believe that Bo Nix is going to be the better quarterback in this game when you compare Bo Nix to Mac Jones. Bo Nix, to me, is going to have a great season for the Auburn Tigers. But Alabama has so much more talent surrounding both sides of the ball. They have a better offense, a better defense, better all-around special teams. It is the Iron Bowl, so I expect this one to be a close, competitive game. But I'm going to lead towards the Crimson Tide in this one. Alabama's going to get back to being Alabama this year. And I don't think they're going to have too big of an issue facing the Tigers. I like the Crimson Tide. All right, so now with everything being said and considered, I have the Tigers going 9-3. So I have the Tigers going 9-3. I have 2 guaranteed losses on this schedule, and that is on the road at Georgia and on the road at Alabama. You're getting the 2 toughest teams in the SEC and 2 of the top 5 teams in all of college football this year, and you have to play them on the road. That's not very easy. That's not easy at all. It's going to be really hard for them to even win one of those games. And yes, I said I was favoring LSU, but the game is at home for Auburn, so Auburn could win that one. And if they end up winning that one, they're probably going to drop a 3rd game somewhere. As I said, they have to play on the road at Ole Miss and at Mississippi State. Of course, they also have to play Texas A&M. So overall, when I average all that out, I have the Tigers going 9-3. So now let's move on to our record range. What this is I take this team's worst case scenario with the team's best case scenario. Worst case scenario I have for the Auburn Tigers is 7-5. The first thing that's going to set the scenario off is if Jatarvius Whitlow ends up transferring out. If Jatarvius Whitlow, the running back, ends up going somewhere else and does not stay an Auburn Tiger, that's going to be a big hit, especially with the lack of practice and how late Jatarvius Whitlow is still in the transfer portal. It's not going to be good for Auburn. That's what's the first going to set the scenario. Second thing that's going to set off the scenario is if Derek Brown's loss to the Auburn Tigers defense is a bigger hit than any of us could imagine. If Auburn's defense can just not, if they just can't gel together at all, I could see them going 7-5 if all those things were to play out. Then their best case scenario for me is 11-1. Now, because the SEC is going to be so competitive in this best case scenario, I see them losing a game somewhere, and most likely to me it's to Georgia, just because it is the Iron Bowl, and it's always a really competitive game. I could see them beating Alabama, but beating Georgia, they're going to lose a game somewhere in this best case scenario, but they really do have the potential. None of their road games are terribly difficult except for Georgia and Alabama. Yes, they have to play North Carolina on the neutral site, but get through them, and I think get through them, and if you can get through Georgia and LSU, I see a way that Auburn can get to Alabama 11-0. Now, I don't think they have a shot at going 12-0 just because they have to play Georgia and Alabama on the road. So that's my best case scenario. But again, my prediction for the Tigers this year is 9-3. So that's going to do it for my schedule preview and record prediction for the 2020 Auburn Tigers. A quick heads up, in 2 days, that is on Memorial Day, you got 2 days. I'm going to be live streaming right here on YouTube with record predictions, schedule previews for the armed forces. That's Navy, Army, and Air Force. Really encourage you guys to go check it out. And if you guys enjoyed, please leave a like. Also, do consider subscribing if you're brand new or enjoy my content. Also, leave a comment down below. Tell me your predictions for Auburn. I read through every single comment. I've been getting a lot of feedback, and I truly am just trying to get better at this whole YouTube thing. So I really do appreciate it. And until next time, play hard, but tailgate harder. I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye.